Hello, I'm Lloyd, your host for another edition of Active Aging, the program that introduces you to vital and interesting people who prove that age is no barrier to a fulfilling and productive life. Their stories disprove the myth that getting older means losing one's creativity or zest for living. People like Irving Feller. He's a native of Brooklyn, New York, but you'll see that his heart and soul are in the American West.
Use the rain stick and to make music.
And Roy Eaton, who has revived a concert career in piano after a 50-year hiatus. Join us now as we meet an American from the East.
I am a furrier. I've dealt in every fur in the world, but you know, I began to go to the Native American people, and I brought them foxtails, and then I brought back jewelry from the Native American people, and then you know, I paint pictures. I'm an artist besides. This jacket represents about many animals, but you see, you cannot see any connection. You see, it hides, the fur hides all the work that goes into it, and it required 3 plates that large, and 2,000 is very reasonable for it, but whoever will wear it will have something different, modern, striking, attractive, unusual.
Maybe a rock star.
Anyone. I think people want
a man
action,
who had never been west of the Hudson River, Irving Feller, is a furrier gone native. He now extends his hunting parties to the wilds of Idaho.
Outgoing experience in fur. And no one has ever put together a jacket like this, and I became very enthusiastic over the texture of it. See, I think that's exciting. That's my feeling. Now, I believe in my feelings, and I do go with my instincts in every area, under all circumstances. Let me show you some other things I've been working on. This is a coyote animal, and you see a piece is gone because I made a collar for a man in Harding, the city of Harding, I think it's in Montana, and I made him a collar, but you see I have a very good section here that will make a fantastic hat. See, that stretches. And you see the head of the animal, the nose, the eyes, the ears, and he was a big fella, and this would make a beautiful hat, even a Western hat, even a hat that an Indian may want, you know, with the head showing. Something like that. You see how that could work? And just engulf it with all this hair and let the head shine out. Because in Native American people love nature. They love the spirit of this animal. They love things of this nature. They do dancing, and these are fox tails. And you see, he will pin many tails on, maybe 20 or 30. And then dance like wild. And then he'll use the rain stick and to make music. I stayed with the Indians. I've been going to the Native American people for 35 years. It happened because a man by the name of Bill Christensen from the Bureau of Indian Affairs called me on the telephone more than 35 years ago and asked me if I would help the Kootenai Indians of northern Idaho go into the fur business. And I felt very honored. And he invited me out west to meet the Kootenai Indians. And then I went up to the Kootenai, who live just below the Canadian border in Idaho. And we tried to get a business going. You see, that's why I kept going back for 35 years. I figured they wouldn't let me into their ways if I just came once and demanded. Oh, that's a no-go. No, I just kept coming back every July and August. and they began to see me more and more and more. And I always treated them nicely. I always felt they were like I was, another human being. And so I got along with them very well. They were very nice to me, honest, straightforward. They have their own ways, but that's sort of beautiful for me. So they're strong, but they lost so much. You know, they look at the land, and they look at the roads, and they look at the things that the white man has made, and it used to all belong to them, and now it doesn't. They're on that reservation. When I meet them, they're happy. I sell them some tails. I buy their jewelry with the money I get. I always treat them straight because they are straight. They see very straight, very straight. We got things now lately from China, and these are Mongolian lambs. Now you see, this is called a plate. And you see, it's more than one animal. See the seams? And yet you cannot see the connection. And that's very good, because then I can make vests, jackets, whatever. And this could be dyed any color. This is dyed, this is chocolate, this is beige, and this is the natural color. Now here is some of the Native American jewelry that I bought in the South. So there are 3 tribes that do Native American jewelry work, and they are the Navajo, the Zuni, and the Hopi. And they all live on the Navajo reservation. Sometimes in my trips I will start in the north, Idaho, and then come down, but I always spend my time in Gallup, New Mexico, where a city is 98% Native American. I can tell you where each piece comes from. Each tribe has their own style. This is Navajo. This is Zuni, flat, inlay work. Navajo give you big stones. I'm wearing Navajo. And Hopi is silver without stones, just plain silver. Now let's see. This is the Zuni eagle. And you know, for the Native American people, the eagle is the closest to God. This is a dream catcher. A lot of people know about dream catchers. And you put that, this is a small one, this is a large one, and you put that by your bed. And as you dream, the net catches the good dream, and the bad dreams go through and away. And from then on, you'll only have good dreams. That's Indian folklore. Working with the jewelry gives me a lot of satisfaction. I'm selling it for the Native American people. That gives me satisfaction. And then I paint pictures like this. I sold this painting to one of my customers, and it has its own style, and but I'm constantly in change. I draw or paint every day, and I keep getting change, and I express it. Oh, I use acrylic paint, I've used oil paint, I used a magic marker on these, and then I do pen and ink. I do different mediums from time to time. This is a portrait of my wife, Selma. I did it in 1966. And when I got to the face, it painted itself. This is where I do my work on furs. And this is the fur machine. I learned how to use this machine. My father taught me when I was 10 years old. My father said, it's not the machine, it's the man behind the machine that counts. Now, this, there it is. Now it's on. And the fur goes through there, through the 2 plates, and you got to work it accordingly. If you make one mistake, it will not work. And this bench is where I stretch the furs. And this is, of course, where I sew the furs. So it's cutting, stretching, sewing, and that makes a fur coat. And here I am, I've been here 56 years, doing fur work, painting every day, or drawing almost every day. The Indians call me up on the telephone and ask me for this and ask me for that. I mail them out. And of course, for 35 years, I drove out. I drove north, south, all over the United States to meet them in every tribe. The Sioux, the Crow, the Kootenai, of course, the Shoshone, Bannock, the Northern Cheyenne, the Navajo, the Zuni, the Hopi, and there were other tribes in between. If you want to do a good job in life, you got to do it. It gives you a happy feeling, and then your work will be good. You got to be happy at what you're doing. As a young boy, I rooted for the cowboys. Now, as an older man, I root for the Native American people. I am a man of different parts. I work with furs, work with people who want furs. I work with the Native American people who I buy the jewelry. I bring them furs. I seem to be very sociable, willing, friendly. I like happiness. I believe in happiness. I don't think you can do anything unless you're happy with it.
Over our lifetimes, we wear many hats, but few can say that they wore the headdress of a Native American chief.
You have to admit it's remarkable to see an 80-something Brooklynite so devoted to his craft and to a people that he is continuing a lifelong east-west adventure. Also continuing a lifelong passion, the pianist Roy Eaton. What propelled this extraordinary man to restart a career in classical piano, going from child prodigy at age 7 to successful concert pianist at age 77, despite an interval of 50 years?
My major experiences have all started with things that looked like handicaps on the surface, but really turned out to be catalysts. First thing, I was born black, but my mother was very, very helpful in helping me to almost use prejudice as an asset rather than a liability. She said, you're black in America, and so in order to get credit for doing 100%, you have to do 200%. So, you can do it. Do it. I loved music, and that was clear from the time I was 3 or 4. My older sister was taking piano lessons, and every time she would get a lesson and come home and play it, I would play it without having a teacher, and so that my mother said, well, you know, I should give you lessons too. Well, my first teacher, when she saw that I had that joint missing, she says, no, you're wasting time. He'll never play the piano. Why did she say that for? That just made me more determined to prove to her I could play the piano. Not only could I play, but as I told you, I won my first competition after studying for about 6 months and ended up playing Carnegie Hall when I was 7. So it was just my will or willfulness or stubbornness and my love for music. I just knew that's what I was supposed to do in my life. my career was moving along very nicely. I won the Chopin Award from the Kosciuszko Foundation. And then Uncle Sam came in and said, "You're in the Army now." And that sort of put things to a grinding halt when I was 23. It was right in the middle of the Korean War, and I knew that I did not want to go to the front. I don't think that's an unusual realization of anyone who was drafted into the Army. And so that I decided that since I knew that my biggest asset for the Army would be my talent, I convinced the lieutenant in charge of our unit that we should have a band. And so I didn't play a band instrument, I played the piano, mind you. So I said, "Well, what do you need?" I said, "Well, there are 2 or 3 people in the band who play band instruments. There's a trumpeter and a drummer and a saxophone player, but I have to go into New York to get some music so that we can make an arrangement for them." So I got to come back to New York on my first weekend in basic training to get music for our band and a baton, one of these batons that cheerleaders use, with a crystal top. And so I ended up spending my special training in front of a trumpeter, saxophone player, and a drummer with my baton, while 4 other poor guys were carrying my rifle. I was the leader of the band. When I came out of the Army, no longer was my publicity of any value, that I had won awards and stuff like that. And so I had to find some way to earn a living, and ended up in advertising. Even in the Army, music was a part of my life. In advertising too. My initial success was on the basis of jingles that I wrote when I was at Young and Rubicam. If I were going to name a Beethoven fifth in my work, it would be the Beefaroni jingle, which was on the air for 30 years. At the time that I did it, the client had said that he wanted to use Yankee Doodle, beef and macaroni. And I told him, "No, you should use a tarantella." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, you want to let people know that you have an Italian product. Use an Italian dance." So he said, "All right, we'll try it." 30 years later, and a very successful product that was still in the air. And it started "What are we having for lunch?" "We're having beefaroni. Beefaroni's full of meat. Beefaroni's really neat. Beefaroni, what a treat. Hooray for beefaroni." And so that was my Beethoven fifth. Well, my view of living as not just doing, but more an awareness of how you are being as being the most important part of your life. My biggest challenge has been to ignore expectations. I am not who anyone else says I am, but I am who I am daily discovering myself to be. And the society in which we live is very powerful in imposing upon you images that they deem to be the image that you are or should be. Earning money should not be the primary goal of your existence, but what contribution are you making so that your life leaves a mark on the world that enhances the lives of your fellow human beings and future generations. That's what your life should be about. Composer. I think, well, there are 2 that are pretty close. First, Chopin. His music really speaks to me. And also recently, within the last 20 years, I've discovered the music of Scott Joplin. And I've discovered him as an African American, I would say, because I feel that the assumptions that are made when someone is African American about who you are and how you are supposed to be can be very narrow and very unrealistic. And it was true of Joplin. Almost all of his compositions are called rags, but he took that form, just like Chopin took a very brutish peasant dance called the mazurka and made a wonderful classical, wrote wonderful classical compositions based on the form. He took the rags and wrote classical compositions. He intended to be and saw himself as a classical composer. The pianist who I admire more than any other, past, present, I'm even looking ahead into the future, is the gentleman whose picture is right there, Arthur Rubinstein. As you see, I'm in the background there. He was at a visit to Manhattan School of Music, where I am on the faculty, and I was able to talk with him personally. Currently, there's also another young pianist who I have very high hopes for, and that's Yevgeny Kissin. And I think those are the two that I would say are in the forefront of my mind, that have that. In pianist, it's like, it's comparable to the ping in Pavarotti's voice that make him so unique among all other tenors. You know, there's something about the quality that his voice had that nobody else had. And I would say the same thing for me is true of for Rubinstein in the past and Yevgeny Kissin in the present. Being a black concert pianist is difficult in the mainstream. It does not prevent me from using my talent in ways that I find productive and very satisfying. For example, I love to play at nursing homes and elder care centers and hospitals and places like that, because I feel that many elements of my music have a healing power. In fact, my first album was called Meditative Chopin, which was intended to allow a person to draw on their inner self, to draw on the powers that are natural to everyone, but which are not discovered by everyone. And that is the power that is within all of us, to heal. Aging is a challenge because, as anyone who is experiencing the aging process knows, some things which you are able to do when you're very young and do very easily, you cannot do quite as easily, but that does not mean that your activities have to stop or shut down. They simply have to be modified. And I think that's how I have approached the challenges of aging. I swim at least 3 times a week, and I do yoga and meditation every day, and so that it's been a stimulus, it's been a spur to keep myself healthy. And I think the fact that the meditation has been a major factor in it actually reverses the aging process. My best advice to people who are living in their golden years is, I guess, maybe the way I just phrased that, to view it as that in fact, now that you are less driven, or there's less of a need for you to worry about income and daily routine, is the time for you to really rediscover whatever it is that is your passion. You should live your life passionately.
can see more of Roy Eaton at his website, www.royeaton.com. Because lives with passion are something we at Active Aging are all for. As our stories demonstrate, age is just a number, not a barrier to an interesting and creative life. Before we sign off, a special thanks to the volunteers who bring their expertise to Active Aging and are currently working on new programs. I'm Lloyd Moss.